and you need to be quite decisive in terms of deciding who stays on your team and who leaves the team. I think the leadership principles are pretty clear, really, and quite simple. That my first principle is to always get a great team of people working around you. And although everyone talks about having great teams, it is quite challenging to make sure that you have a very good team. And you need to be quite decisive in terms of deciding who stays on your team and who leaves the team. And you've got to be quite vicious at times in terms of deciding that sometimes people have got to exit the team. The second principle is really just to delegate. If you've got great people, then you need to let them get on and do the job. And you need to let them get on and do the job, obviously with their objectives and their focus, all working towards the same strategy. And the third key element of leadership principles is very fast decision making. I always make decisions very, very quickly, and I don't wait around and think about decisions and not make decisions. And I always believe that not making decisions is worse than making the wrong decision. And I'll give you one example of that. There was a core bit of the exterior of the Emirates Stadium, and we were unsure about whether that was the right treatment. I actually personally didn't like it. And I waited and waited and waited to make that decision. And every week that I waited, not making that decision, it cost us another £30,000. And after 4 weeks, I decided to make a decision just to go with something which I didn't really like, but actually, by waiting further weeks, would have cost even more money. So fast decision making is really important. Well, when I arrived at Highbury, I kind of got my induction plan, and it was quite a worrying induction plan, really, which basically said, we don't have any money. We want the stadium to be built about 800 metres away from where Highbury was, but we don't own the land. And on this land, by the way, there's something called a waste transfer station, which is where the 8 councils around Highbury used to leave their rubbish in a very, very big warehouse. And then it used to get bulldozed up and put on lorries and taken off to put in landfill dumps. In addition to this, on that site, there was also 150 parking spaces for council vehicles, including many spraying facilities and bodywork facilities and repair facilities for the vehicles. So that was the start of my induction. And in order to build the final Emirates Stadium, we had to buy an additional 50 acres of land in the middle of Islington, which is no mean feat to achieve. And we managed to purchase all this land, and we had a brilliant land agent who went round and did the negotiations. We obviously had to overpay for certain pieces of land, but we eventually got the land assembly completed. And then to finish the whole project, we had to conduct 3 huge projects. And the first project was obviously to build the Emirates Stadium. And football stadiums are immensely complex structures. And also, this was probably the first major modern stadium that had been built in the UK for very many years. We then had to build the Highbury Stadium and rebuild that into 700 flats. And we had to put in all the transport infrastructure, which included 2 huge bridges, one of which had to be installed with the biggest crane in Europe. So these are some of the challenges we faced. And clearly the money challenge ran through the whole project. Firstly, we completed a transaction with Granada, where we raised 77 million by selling 10% of the club. And then we had to raise bank facilities. And in total, we raised over £800 million of bank facilities over the length of this project, which is quite a challenge on a business that actually at that time turned over, when I joined, £60 million a year. So it was quite a challenge. And I think we all say about this project that if we'd known how difficult it was to do it, we'd never have started it. But we did start it, and we completed it on time and on budget. And I think that's a testament to all the people who worked on this project. I think that many large-scale projects fail and run completely and utterly over budget, and also very, very late. So I think there are some really key principles that I think are very, very important. We took a huge amount of time to choose our partners. When you're completing a large-scale project, you need to have very, very good partners who are working with you. And we spent a lot of time doing a vast amount of due diligence on all of our partners. And more importantly than the financial due diligence or the technical due diligence, we spend a lot of time with them, making sure they were people that we could work with and making sure that they could work with us. And we think that's an incredibly important part of securing a large project. The second point is stay close. So many people appoint all their professionals, appoint their teams, and then just disappear into the background. We were in our projects every single day. Every single day we were on site at Emirates Stadium or on site at Highbury Square and talking to the people who were actually building the project, finding out what the problems were and what the issues were. And obviously you have got to have rigorous formal reviews. We used to have a weekly review and a monthly review, but the daily reviews were also really important, of just walking the sites and just talking to the workforce there and finding out where the problems were. And obviously the fourth point is quick decisions. Things always go wrong in these projects, and I'll never forget one instance where we realised kind of 4 months before the stadium opened that something was wrong, and we sat in the seats and we were sitting there moving around, and we didn't really understand what was wrong, but we just felt that something wasn't quite right. And we worked out eventually that the media section, which is the middle section of the lower tier, was on 1.5 tiers, and this created 2,500 restricted view seats. So we immediately contacted the architect, who really didn't want to know about all this problem. So the builder and I sat down and worked out a solution, and we, by the afternoon, had knocked up a model of what the desk could look like on a single step, which would eradicate the problem. And we then made it into a single step, built these desks and got it all done, and we got it done within 2 weeks. So that's what I mean by fast decision making and fast actions and being on site. All those things are really important, but having great partners who work with you is also a key part of that success. I think there are two really, really big issues for people when they want to scale their companies. And the first one's the more difficult one, I think. Because the first one is you have great people working for you. That's why you're successful, and that's why you want to scale your business. But some people can't go to the next level of scale. And so they are the very, very hard decisions that business people have got to make in scaling their business. Some of their most trusted lieutenants that have got them from A to B will not be the same people who can take them from B to C. And that is the biggest challenge for people scaling businesses. So I think my advice to people is that if you are worried and are questioning any of your reports as to whether they can or can't, or any of your managers that can or can't do the job, The answer is they probably can't, and you need to back your management judgment, and you need to make a hard decision to either get someone in above them who is more competent, and can be a great solution, or that they have to leave the organisation if you don't think you can manage someone coming in who can drive your business and scale it to the next level. So the people element are key in scaling a business, and you must not assume that because someone's been good at, say, 50 million, they are the right person for a business that's going to turn over 100 or 150 million. They may be, but they may not be. The second key element is cash and facilities and banking and funding. And so many businesses forget about the fact that as they grow their business, they grow their working capital, they grow their investments, and they've got to make sure they do this from sound funding and sound financing. And so many people forget to plan ahead of that. It's no good trying to scale a business before you've actually gone to speak to your banks or your capital funders, your equity funders, to find out whether they are going to support you in this scaling and expansion. So it's key to actually make sure that you have the funds available to be able to scale your business and to get it to perform and grow in the future. The third element is you've got to make sure you've got the right strategy, and you know that is really important. And strategies don't stay constant over time; they move over time. And as you grow faster, your strategy should evolve and develop. So I think those are the three key elements you've got to get right if you're going to scale your business.